Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the Free Agent Podcast. My name is Meg Schmitz, and this discussion is all about free agency and taking control over your future. The mission of the show is to share inspiring stories with real people who took the leap into self-employment, business ownership, franchising, and freedom. From corporate refugees and executives tired of the desk job to entrepreneurs and investors looking to share camaraderie and inspiration through their own business journey, my podcast aims a spotlight on real people who stepped into the unknown, took control of their destiny, and became their own boss. A lot of these conversations you probably wouldn't hear about on a normal day-to-day basis. They don't tend to surface in regular conversation, but I want you, the listeners, to know that we as free agents experience ups and downs in our businesses. We have to navigate sneak attacks like the last year, and yet we're still producing amazing, successful results. So welcome to the show, Jason and Shaun Olsen with Image Studios. They are franchisors, and I know these guys. They're a lot of fun, but they're also dead serious about their business and business growth. So welcome, you guys.
Happy Tuesday, Meg.
Thank you so much for being here. I miss seeing you in person. Your storytelling and sense of humor is always welcome at our conferences when we can get together. So it's nice to see your smiling faces today. And so to kick things off, what I really wanted the listeners to hear about today is not a franchisee's story, but the story of a successful franchise company. And the two of you as founders, tell us about Image Studios and the genesis of it and where are things today?
And that might be, Shaun, you want to do like the short recap on that? Because Shaun's really good at telling the story, and I kind of miss over some of those details, but I think it's kind of fun to hear how this all happened.
Yeah, let's have a little bit of story time. So what's interesting about Image Studios, we're in the beauty industry, right? Salon suite concept. Our background, though, me and Jason, is the car business. We have a couple dealerships out here in Salt Lake City. So you couldn't have two contrasting like industries to be in, the car industry and the beauty industry. But what's interesting about Image Studios is it wasn't birthed out of boredom. It's not like me and Jason needed something else to do. And, we got bored with the cars and we wanted to find somewhere else to put our energy. It was birthed out of fear. And that fear moment was in 2008 when the recession hit. And I'm sure all you remember the recession because if you were in business at all, it felt like the sky was falling for at least 6 months. And especially in our industry, the car business, it's a real feast or famine business. It's either doing really well or it's not. And when you have a recession, people typically start to pull back on heavy expenditures. You don't see a lot of people buying homes, and the second biggest expenditure that a household makes is a vehicle. And it's the worst depreciating asset on top of that. So you got like a double whammy right there. And so being in the car business during the recession it seriously felt, I remember just like talking to myself at work because there was nothing going on, but just wondering what was going to happen with capitalism. I was like, is this all done? Is this the end of the road? Because it really felt like that. Me and Jason were calling our dealership with our cell phones to make sure the phones worked. That's how slow it was for about 3 to 6 months. So anyways, one day we're at the office, literally falling asleep at our desk. And one of our good friends comes in and she plops down a bag of cash on the table. And she's like, I want to buy that Escalade out there. And me and Jason are like, we're dying to sell a car right now, right? We're dying to sell a car, but we're also concerned friends. So we're like, hey, look, I don't know if it's the best time to go make a big purchase like this because we're in the middle of the recession. Like maybe you should wait for the smoke to clear and see how this plays out before you spend all that money, all that hard-earned cash. And she looked at us literally like a deer in the headlights, and she kind of cocked her head and she was like, I've heard about the recession, but I don't really know what's going on. And me and Jason are like, what are you talking about? You don't know what's going on. Like, how's business? She said, it's never been better. She says, I'm booked 6 to 8 weeks out. And at that very exact moment, that was kind of our first light bulb moment when me and Jason realized we have to get into this industry because we had been talking about diversifying and getting into something else because all of our eggs were in this real volatile basket. So anyways, at this point, we're like intrigued. We're like, well, tell us more. What's going on? So for about like 30 seconds, Meg, me and Jason thought about becoming hairstylists, but we couldn't because we had a full-time day job that we couldn't escape from, right? And plus, I didn't want to be on my feet all day long cutting hair. But Anyway, so that lasted for about 30 seconds. Then next thing you know, she starts telling us about where she works. And she worked at an existing national salon suite chain. And she explained to us how it worked. And we thought the idea was brilliant because it was a real simple concept. It was a landlord-tenant relationship. That's it. And that's what we needed. We needed something simple that once again, we still had a day job we had to tend to. So we had to find something that would enable us on the side to build something honestly great, something cool. So the next day we go over to her space and we're blown away. The place is packed wall to wall. All the common areas are taken up. I mean, it's alive, it's bustling, it's impressive. But what wasn't impressive was the execution of the concept. It looked like the space they were in looked like a stale doctor's office. Mm-hmm. It didn't look like I was going to get a haircut. I mean, there was carpet on the floor, solid wood core doors, there's a drop ceiling. It didn't look at all like a salon to me looks like. So at this point in time, me and Jason are like, this is it, let's do it. But things were pretty tight because like I said, we're still in the middle of the recession. So we decided before we take this leap of faith, we're going to do as much R&D as possible. So we spent the next year and a half flying around probably to about 40 plus different salon suite concepts, mostly on the Midwest, on the West Coast where we're at. And the goal was to interview stylists and just once again, research, try to find out what is it that you aren't getting today that you want, right? Where are they falling short? Where are the holes in the boat? And we found out about three of the top things were number one, aesthetic value and design. They weren't getting that. Yeah. Almost every salon suite concept is it's generic. It's just, to me, the best way to describe it is it's stale. So, and one thing about salon professionals that people don't realize is they consider themselves to be artists. Which it kind of sounds weird at first, but when you think about it, it actually makes complete sense. They're touching the most intimate part of your body, your face, right? They're beautifying people. So they're an artist and they want a space that reflects what they do. They want a beautiful space because they're beautifying people. So they weren't getting that. That was first. Second, there was no support. They'd sign a lease, and they kind of just got left to fend for themselves. Yeah. And one common thing we always heard was, I mean, everybody loves to be on their own and be their own boss, but you still want to feel a part of something. I don't care how independent you are. You still want to feel a part of a tribe, a part of something bigger. And then lastly, ongoing education. There was nothing to help just sharpen their skills because things are continually changing in the beauty industry, techniques, new ways they do things, cut colors, whatever it is. And they need to stay on top of that, right? To be relevant. They need to stay on top of that to just stay trendy. So those three things were what we really zeroed in on. So we came back and in June of 2010, we opened up our first location in a small suburb outside of Salt Lake City. Probably wasn't the ideal location, but once again, I think when you give the people what they want, they come. And we filled it up in 6 months. And it was, honestly, we were tickled. We were just like, this is amazing. But we had no intention of doing a second location. We were like, that's it. By this time, the dealership was starting to get back into a little bit of a groove. And so we were like, let's go back to work. So we went back to work, but we started getting calls from random people that we didn't even know asking, when's the next one coming? And after you get enough of those phone calls, you'd be dumb not to just do another one. So we did another one a year later on the dot. And the same thing happened. It filled up in 6 months, 100%. Once again, me and Jason are like, yes, let's go back to work.
Financial freedom.
Yeah, but we didn't want to do another one. We had two. We were like, this is a lot. Anyways, every year, the same story, that same thing happened. People calling, when's the next one coming? There was just massive demand, pent up demand that we didn't even see it. And then by the fifth location, right around 2015, we have our grand opening. And it was kind of our second light bulb moment because we had 5 rooftops. We had about 190 stylists, salon professionals underneath those rooftops. And we had 1 full-time employee and we had 1 part-time handyman. And we compared that to the dealership, which honestly, it's glorified babysitting. We have 70 grown-ups that we have to make sure do their job every day. Because if you don't, money goes out the side door, the back door, the front door.
You're talking about the dealership?
Yeah, the dealership. Yeah. So we're comparing the salon to the dealership. We're like, wow, we have 1 full-time employee and 1 part-time handyman at the salons. And we have 70 employees at the dealerships. And it's brain damage, right? You're just every day. And you have to be there every day too. You really do. It's a hands-on deal. You have to be there.
Yeah, you do.
So at this point, we decided, you know what, we need to focus and channel this energy, more of our energy towards Image Studios, the Salon Suite concept, because that's the end game. That's the future.
So is it starting to look like a franchise to you, where you're starting to streamline and systemize?
Oh, totally.
Systematize?
No, yeah. By the fifth location, it really felt like it was in some sense perfected, even though it's never perfected, right? You're always improving. But anyway, so at this point, that's when we, once again, because of all those things coming into place, we realized let's take this to the next level. Let's franchise it. And because we love the concept, we love the idea. And so that's when we started franchising in 2017. And presently we're at 84 now in development, 24 open.
Yeah. And, Meg, a part of this that was a big catalyst was Shaun and I both went through the Goldman Sachs Small Business Program in 2013. And so we were really challenged with this thought process of how do you scale a business? How do you create systems and processes and training to support scalability? And then in going into this program, we left it with the idea that franchising was the path for us because of the amount of time and attention we had put into scaling. And now it was the chance to then partner up with franchise, partners in success all across the country to continue to expand what we had built. So that was probably the catalyst that gave us the confidence to even venture into franchising. Franchising is such a big endeavor. So, but yeah, we're excited where we're at, and it's been a fun road to get here. We're just getting started too. So
that Goldman Sachs program has been such a great launching pad for entrepreneurs as well as franchise companies. That was 2013. So we're already out of the recession by then. How many did you get open between 2008 to 11? It was just the first two?
So the first one we opened in June of 2010. So 2008, middle of 2008 is when we were like, we have to do something.
Yeah.
That's when we found out about Salon Suites. Then we took the next year and a half to do as much research before we opened that first location, because we really wanted to try to hit it perfect. Obviously it didn't happen, but I'm glad we took the time to do the research. But 2010 was the first. And then every year after that was another one. Did
your past ownership, the dealerships, those are franchises, I assume?
No, we're independent.
Oh, got it. Okay, because there's a whole world of franchising that's there in automotive. I was wondering if that was part of the catalyst or part of the systemization that you put in place. So were you learning all of this organically? Were your stylists giving you tips and insights? How were you putting together what is Image Studios? What were your greatest points of incentive or insight?
Yeah, honestly, a lot of it, I shouldn't say it came natural. It's naturally where our minds go, I think. Shaun and I were involved in a startup I started in high school, 1997, called streetlooks.com. And, within the first year and a half of building that online business in our basement in high school, the next thing I did was write an operations manual for the business. And looking back, I found this manual the other day and I'm like laughing because I'm like, I've just been programmed to write manuals and think in systems and processes. It's just where my brain goes. And so I think what's interesting is when we started Image Studios, we were in the business of supporting entrepreneurs and ensuring that they get not only the strategic support that they need, but more importantly, I think for entrepreneurs is the emotional support and connection you get from a community. And that you can't get in a manual yet, that you can't read in a book. That's the power of community that is extremely potent in franchising. But we had that community in our business. The business itself was a business of entrepreneurs. So when we went to franchise, it was really just an extension of the business we'd already created, which was how do you attract high caliber talent, people who see your vision, they align with your core values, and that they want to go to the next level in their career, and they're looking for a support network to do that. And that's really what we have so much fun doing, is like, it's the same business, whether we're working with stylists or franchisees, we're working with entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And we're all trying to go in the same direction, which is level up and get to that goal that we have in mind.
And this is a really good example. So I was a Great Clips franchisee for 11 years. I had 5 locations and they were all my employees. With your business model, you have entrepreneurs, stylists, or estheticians, whatever they may be. They're entrepreneurial in wanting to take that next step out of a shared salon space and into their own little business. And absolutely hit the nail on the head. When I'm talking to prospective franchise owners, I want them to go in with onboard training, but also ongoing training. So how quickly were you putting together that ongoing training, and does it include business development skills, not just cosmetology skills?
Yeah, it does. So we have basically a master's course that's been created called Image Pro Business Program for all of the salon professionals, and it's multi-level courses that are geared at helping them understand break even, how to raise prices, how to save for retirement. There's even a module on how to retire a millionaire as a hairstylist. A millionaire hairstylist is what we call it, and it's really not that difficult. We break it down into a daily habit that results into a long-term success, which is, if literally they save $17 a day, which is selling 1 bottle of shampoo per day. So the average profit on, say, shampoo, put that into an index fund like the S&P that's a Roth, so it's pre-tax, and you let that $17 accrue every 5 days a week for 25 years, you'll retire with $1.4 million thanks to compound interest. And people go through this course and their mind just explodes because they're going, I'm just a hairstylist. I never thought I could be a millionaire. And it's like, you're not just a hairstylist, you're a business owner. Like you can make $1 million or more in this business. You just have to be disciplined in your approach.
Yeah.
And so our philosophy's kind of always been, there's not a lot of, I don't believe big silver bullets in business. There's not like a big home run you hit and all of a sudden you're there. It's a lot of strategic wins along the way. Little wins here, you get little successes, you get little insights, and you apply, and then you stay disciplined. It's not like one day you wake up with this brand new idea and it just happens the next day, right? It takes years to get something to grow. But I will say one of the things that Shaun and I leveraged, and I would say for anyone thinking about getting into business, fear is going to be a very real thing. Fear was a very real thing for us starting a business in the middle of the recession on the verge of bankruptcy. So what we did though, was we leveraged the fear to push us, because in my experience, there is no situation when you start a business that you will not be terrified.
Yeah.
But the reality is it comes down to what's your confidence and willingness to work. If you are good in those areas, you can deal with fear. But fear is a powerful motivator that Shaun and we were so scared when we opened that first location, because if that did not work, we had signed personal guarantees. We had pledged the dealership as collateral. Like we would lose everything on all sides. Not a wise move to make looking back. We financed the first location with like 13 credit cards. We had no money.
I've done that.
But at the same time, we also did the math and understood what this was going to cost us and what we were supposed to make, and it made sense. But we were so determined to start something new, because unless there's 2 kinds of fear of doing something. And then the other fear that was eating me alive was in the fear if I never did anything. That's the fear I didn't want to live with. I'd rather try and fail and be like, well, at least I tried.
Yeah.
But if I sat back and I never tried, and I sat my whole life going, could I have been a good business owner? Like I would have eaten myself alive if I never did anything. I couldn't have done it. And that's where I looked at fear. There's also a fear of not acting, what's bigger to you, the fear of acting or not acting? That's something people should think about.
Besides the 2 of you being brothers, throughout this whole process, at what point did girlfriends or spouses enter into this, and how have they been supportive or challenging you to improve? Because the spouse thing, we all know about spousal sabotage, but you two, as have figured out that even if you got to put it on credit cards, and way back then for me, it was 15 to 18%. I had a home equity line of credit. I was not lacking in confidence. I had the confidence, but sometimes along the way, you have to pull other people with you. So the 2 of you had each other. Who else is in your posse?
So like I got married in 2014. So for me, I think it was a lot easier because that train had already started going. You know, we had already had by that time 4 locations plus the dealership. So that was just, this was all part of the package, right? You jump on this train or you can jump off, but this is what's going on. So that definitely helps, I think, once you've already got going. So I haven't had tons of pushback just besides, I mean, let's be honest, the time commitment's always an issue, especially with kids. But there's always ways to work around that.
But then there's the benefit, and that is, as an entrepreneur, I know how time consuming it is to run a business and have employees, EIDL, PPP, and all the other crazy things that came last year. But when you're building into something that's providing freedom as well. Yes. So as fathers and family men, then what specific freedoms would you tell a listener you got by overcoming fear and taking those steps forward?
I mean, for me, it's our core values: creativity, freedom, and success, right? We're able to be creatives because we're building a brand, we're building a business. And because we're doing it, in my opinion, the right way, that gives us the freedom of not, and by all means, let me just say, that doesn't mean I just work, a day a week. It's not like there's freedom really right now, but it is freedom in the sense that I'm not tied down to a 9-to-5 corporate job that I don't want to do. I'm free to do what I want to do, which is I'm doing it right now. And eventually I'll be literally free to do whatever I want to do, whether it's work a day a week or 7 a week, whatever that is. So that's where, when you say about freedom, that's creativity, freedom, and success. That's our core values because that's exactly what we wanted from this.
I would think that some of your franchisees are living a better lifestyle than you are right now in terms of freedom.
Oh, for sure. But that's the whole idea though, right? We love it. Just being able to empower people to be business owners and just once again, having creativity, freedom, and success in their lives. It's really gratifying. That's one thing when me and Jason opened up the first location, we did not realize the impact this was having on the tenants that came into our space. I mean, they were literally doubling their income. And I don't care if you're making 20 grand a year or 200 grand a year. If you double your income, that's a massive lifestyle change.
And so from a metric standpoint, because I know what this is like, having an employee come in with a pile of cash because they're generally paid in tips is where biggest percentage of their income starts to come. You look at these people and it's real money. This is a real walk. You can acquire real material things. In the last, say, 2 years, what have you seen for your stylist tenants? Because they're not your employees. You've got your own locations, but others as well. What are some of the pivots that they have had to make leading into the pandemic and now through it? What kind of either financial metrics have you seen for their own performance?
Yeah, it was interesting to watch. In the very beginning of the pandemic, I think not everyone, but a lot of professionals started to panic. Like, what is it? How bad is this going to get? How long is it going to last? I think we all were wondering what's going on because we didn't know. We didn't have any track record to see what this thing was going to become. But then the shutdown started to happen pretty quickly throughout the country. And then that really got people nervous. And we pivoted immediately to a cadence of communication that was almost daily in some cases, not only for franchisees, but for salon professionals to tune in, get updates about what we're seeing across the country, what are best practices, creative ways to generate revenue. So one of the things we saw people do, well, there's a couple of things. I'll tell you just a few of them that I thought was really unique that we've really helped spread the word on. But right as the shutdown did happen, we saw a lot of people go to become educators, not necessarily like go get an educator's license, but they instead spent their time on social, educating their clients and their audience on just beauty tips, at-home beauty, things you can do, things that you can do with kids as well to keep them occupied. And then we also saw people then pivot more towards basically generating revenue ideas. So if you buy a gift card now for when we reopen, I'll give you 20% off. If you refer a friend when we open, I'll give you 50% off your next service. So just a lot of ways because I do think there was and there still is this real air of like think we all want to really help. Who needs the most help right now? And you look at like the restaurant industry, the beauty industry, the fitness industry. Some of these people are they can't win for losing in what this pandemic's brought to them because they just can't get reopened. They can't get people to come in. They have strict occupancy rules.
Yeah.
And so I think there's a lot of effort for a lot of people in this country to help those who need it the most. And so I've seen clients step up a lot too and really, really support their stylists, especially when they come back, giving them extra tips, buying those gift certificates, anything they can to keep them going. And then we also did just internally, the recommendation to all our franchisees to not charge rent, while they're shut down. If they're not getting revenue, you're not going to get it. Let's make sure we don't.
Oh, good for you.
Stress. And I'm a firm believer when you're in a pandemic and then you come out of it, you can be the good guy or the bad guy, because there's going to be a lot of bad guys. The banks, the credit card companies that don't help people out when they need it. I think the important part is you want to be the good guy coming out of this, because this is where people even build like even deeper layers of loyalty with the brand that will pay, dividends for years. And so I think it's important to keep our eye on the big picture of what's going on and not try and focus too much on what do we need to get today? What do they need to get today? What do we need long-term? And that's that community. So.
Do you have any idea from a business or revenue increase? Just for me as a consumer, I would rather go to a salon suite where I'm the only customer in there versus a shared salon. That's why we vacated Illinois. My husband and I, we've got an apartment there, shared air, just like an open salon, shared air. Have your salon professionals seen an increase in revenue through the pandemic of people like me who would rather come to a private salon where sanitation is more controllable?
100%. There's been this COVID effect on our business model during the shutdown. In some cases, some stores were shut down 4 weeks, some were shut down 2 weeks, some were shut down like 16 weeks. But during that shutdown period, our stores across the country experienced more leasing activity than we've ever had in our history. And the funny thing is we weren't giving tours in person during the shutdowns. We pivoted, everyone recorded a virtual tour on their phone, and then they would have Zoom calls and show people the videos and get them all excited. And because during the shutdown, people at traditional salons said, there's no way I'm going back to this. Mm-hmm. I don't want to be next to all those people. Or even if they're comfortable with that, they may have clients that are being very vocal. I don't think I can go back. I don't know what to do. People are panicking. So the whole salon suite industry saw this massive surge during the pandemic. Pretty much, I think almost every location across the country, our brand and others, was at or near 100% occupancy for a good part of 2020. There's been some really sad statistics we're seeing, from like the Professional Beauty Association, that they expect, 20 to 25% of all traditional salons to close their doors in the next 12 to 18 months. That's a lot of salons. That's probably several 100,000 professionals that are going to be displaced. And the beauty industry has got 1.5 million professionals in it right now. And just about 5% of those are in salon suites nationwide. So we're a very small minority of the population of professionals if you look at what salon suites are. But think about the growth that lies ahead of this, massive amounts of growth and traffic that will be able to come into this concept. I think our biggest challenge right now is we don't have nearly enough stores open that we would like. We'd love to have 200 stores open right now if we could, because this is the time to open at a grand scale. And I think it will slowly stabilize after that. So we still look forward to the future too, because this will change the industry in a pretty significant way, I think permanently. It won't get rid of the old version of it, but it's just sort of accelerating the new version of it.
Are you guys working corporately or infrastructure to push through social media education for these stylists who maybe they're not used to building a book of business, like at a Great Clips? They don't build a book of business. It's a walk-in environment. So are you looking forward to ways that you can educate and attract these displaced professionals?
Absolutely. The that seems, and the beauty industry is also so bullish on education in general. You know, the beauty industry is always, professionals are always striving for more education. The problem in the beauty industry is most education is skills based. So it's, you know, how to do a razor cut, how to correct color, this or that, whatever it is, how to do an eyebrow tint. The problem is there's not a lot of business training, how
Right.
to, you know, the biggest challenge in the entire beauty industry is how to raise prices. People are so scared to raise prices because it's a personal relationship you have with your client. You do need to also keep up with inflation and your skill level. And a lot of times I see people that don't raise prices for up to 10 years. I mean, they're leaving 30% of additional income on the table. And usually when people raise prices, the clients tell them, it's about time, you were way too cheap. Like the clients start feeling bad, they're paying so cheap that people are like, okay, this is a sign you need to be raising. But so our business, we've looked at all the nuances of the industry that helps solve big problems. Like you could do business training till you go blue in the face, but it's got to be the right message and the right content for who you're talking to. Mm-hmm. And so we've really done a lot of research and deep dives with professionals to find out what it is you really struggle with. And the themes are very consistent. Again, it's, I don't know how much I make. I don't know what my break even is. I'd like to make more money, which is raising prices. I'm terrified about retirement. There's a retirement module there. And the other big one, how do I pay my taxes? I don't know if I'm going to pay the right amount in taxes. So we have a tax training course, how to save for taxes. So we look at all that and we try and solve problems that we know exist versus solving problems that we think exist, which is a big common mistake when people create training and education is, let me tell you what you need to know without asking you first, where would you like to go? And that's the most important part is like talk to your audience first and find out what is it they really need and then build something and then combine that with what you want out of the group's education too. But it's got to touch on all those points or you're not going to have a very good chance at success with education.
And in the Salon Suite arena, the mix of tenants is a very delicate ecosystem, and that is an environment that is not meant for everyone. If they don't have the confidence to build their own clientele and to manage and market to that clientele, for example, the chains, for lack of a better term, many of them really, those stylists like to stay there because they have a lot of flexibility. They can come and go, or it's perceived flexibility, I think. But what emphasis do you put on educating your franchise owners about attracting and retaining the right tenants for the culture that you want to maintain?
Yeah. So we have a 16-week training program. So we have training 11 to 1, 3 days a week, every week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Every week on top of that, there's a best practices call they can join to collaborate and do basically roundtables with other franchisees on build out, recruiting, things like that. And then that 16-week program, when it ends, it just starts again the next week. So we have a never-ending ongoing training program that I feel is honestly some of the best I've seen in the franchise world because people can drop in. They don't have to go in succession to get through the training. You just make sure you get all your credits before you can graduate from training. But the majority, I would say, probably 40% of the entire training program, and that's a lot of training, but 40% of that in some way is geared towards recruitment. Because if you can nail the recruiting process, how do you source and find the right people? And then how do you communicate with them? How do you speak to them? How do you ask the right? We believe firmly in a question-based sales process. So we don't like to sell something. We like to discover what you're looking for and then show you the options that work for your needs. Based on what you told me, here's what I think would be best for you. Instead of let me tell you what I think is going to work, because that's how sales works, right? And then people want to, shoot you in the head when you're done. But the recruiting thing is the most important piece. If you can't recruit, you're not going to, no matter how beautiful your space is, you're going to be stuck. So we also look for those kind of skill sets and strengths in people's personalities when we first meet them, you know, that want to do a franchise, is making sure ultimately your people skills are going to be the most critical asset. And that's kind of true, I think, in almost any business. I think most of the business is managing stress and fear, and being a psychologist, and then knowing how to communicate. If you master those skills, you could run any business, especially communication and psychology. Those are two things that you'll be, you know, wishing you took more of in college. But
that's what I took in college.
yeah, you're set then.
But it's so true with cosmetologists. They are artists. The word beautician isn't used much anymore, but they're artists, and they like to play dress up and makeup, and they know the guy or woman coming in for a haircut who's going back out again for a job interview, 2008 to 11, and getting a new image, getting a new look. This is exactly who they are. Is they're artists, not necessarily business people. So this is one of the reasons I wanted to have the two of you on, is that Image Studios has such a robust infrastructure and training, not only for your franchisees, those are the people I work with, people who want to own a business, but it's impressive the volume of information that you can give not only to the franchisees, but also to their tenants, their salon professionals. Are there any things that, looking at your current business model, and I don't want you to give away secret sauce, but are there any things that you would have done sooner, or you wouldn't have done at all if you could have a do-over? Are there things that you would have done differently?
Yeah, there's a lot, but there's also a lot of things I think we needed to learn to get us to where we are. So it's hard to eradicate those learning processes, but right off the bat, I would say, I don't think we were thinking big enough from the beginning. That's a big thing I tell people in entrepreneurs who are getting going, is like, just, you know, you have a dream, you have a vision, but are you thinking beyond local? Are you thinking beyond like your state, beyond your, is this a national idea? Is this an international idea? Like, if you think 10 stores in 10 years is a big idea, that is. But could you think bigger than that? What is, like I always tell people, what's the most you can stress your brain into what could be possible? So I don't, and like Shaun said, we did that first location and we thought we were done. Then we did another one and we're like, gosh, we did pretty good. We got 2 going in 2 years. And then it was like, wait a minute, we don't have to stop. And this is a lot more fun than our other business. What are we doing over there when we're having fun over here? And we love making money in this realm, because it's just fun when you're making your business is a success. The people that are coming to your business are successful. So thinking bigger, I would always say, when you're starting out, dream big, and just keep a note of that in the back of your mind about the what ifs. And then I wish we would have, we spent a lot of time building probably over 1,000 pages of manuals before we even sold our first franchise. And I don't know any franchisors that end up documenting that much process and procedural stuff that early on. What we didn't do, though, was what do we do with it? You can't just write it and expect people to read it, right? No one's going to read it. It's there. It's there as a symbolic representation of what they're going to learn from you, and then they can refer to it for additional assistance. But the training program we have now was not in place day one, and luckily we got that in place very quickly, so we didn't have a lot to correct, or bad behavior, or bad habits to go address. But man, if we had put, and that's something I going to IFA and Franchoice and all these other great places where you rub shoulders with, brilliant minds in the franchise world, is the importance of a good training program. And I thought that was a training program. And then we get into it and realize, okay, no, this is a training program. What we've got now is, but it would have been nice to get that in there when we launched. And then an org chart. Creating a good org chart is tough, but it's really tough to, what's the org chart look like in 5 years? Yeah. So you kind of have to visualize about what future positions exist that don't exist now, and make sure that you're looking at the right staffing ratios. This is true for franchisees, franchisors. If a franchisee wants to open 10 of our stores, they need to be thinking about, okay, if you have 10 stores, how many repairmen, how many janitors do you need? How many leasing agents? And, one per 5 stores, 1 per 7 stores, whatever it is the ratio. We help them craft those.
Yeah.
But those are things people, if they're thinking about, they can realize I could do 10 of these and have three employees.
Yeah. Economies of scale are beautiful with this business model. It's such an attractive business model.
And they get better the bigger you get, because you can spread a lot of that bandwidth further. So it's just it's fun, because it's kind of I shouldn't say a no limit scale, because there's always a limit with either capital or time. But it is a very fun business to scale very quickly, that you still have, when Shaun and I were doing the dealership, he mentioned this. It kind of felt like at some point when we had, 500 cars, 2 locations, and 75 employees, I personally didn't feel like I had a whole lot of control. I know Shaun probably felt the same way. And it's like, it's kind of scary. The bigger your business gets, you do lose control.
Yeah.
But the key is, do you have the right people working for you that believe in your vision? Then you still have that control. But with image, it's a lot more direct control, even at a large scale, that really alleviates a lot of that, late nights stressing about things that you just hope go right, but you really aren't involved in that process anymore because the business is so big. So it's been a lot of fun learning processes. And I would say too, we also learned a ton of mistakes from the car business that we applied to this business in weird ways you'd never guess. But, the car dealership world is like one of the most competitive, low margin, high volume businesses around. If you can succeed selling cars in today's world, you can run any business, I say, because when you operate on a 2 to 3% net profit margin, you have to be an expert in operations.
Yeah. Yeah. And
you fail, you're gone.
With the change in administration and the discussions around minimum wage, and I imagine that will impact your automotive business quite differently than professional salon suites. It's such a great growing business. I would invest in it if I had a little bit more bandwidth. I've got the financial bandwidth. With the pandemic, I've always been attracted to your brand over the others for a lot of the reasons that you're talking about. From an operational standpoint, the two of you, do you work in the same building? Are you in the same office? How much time do you spend there with image versus at the dealership? And how do you two interact? How do you keep the energy and the fun and the momentum going?
Well, our mom plays a big role in that.
Yay, Mom.
We've had an operator that we hired on a couple of years ago to run the dealership for us. So Shaun and I are really fully tuned in and operating in image studios now, which is fun. But, especially during the pandemic, we're working a lot of it remote. I'm doing a lot of site visits for new stores. And Shaun, so we look at our separation of roles and talents and skills. Shaun and I have always had this perfect complement of strengths. The things he loves to do are things I don't necessarily love to do. The things I get crazy about, he doesn't really get crazy about. So we have this visionary integrator relationship. The things we're good at. Shaun's a great communicator. He's great with people. He's great with development. He's funny. Yeah, everybody loves Shaun. And I'm more the back office business guy. I want to be building pro formas. I want to be looking at site selection data. And so but the fact is, if I had to play both roles, wear both hats, man, it'd be 2.5 times harder than what I do now. But it's because I would say in any business partnership, and this is true in all relationships, opposites really pay dividends. You think you want to be with someone like you, but you really want to be with someone that has a lot of opposite things about you in the right ways.
And so you're follically challenged, Jason, and Shaun, I have heard some of my colleagues say he's easy on the eyes. So, That's
out the bag, Meg.
You are the perfect combination. Do you have other siblings?
Yeah, we have like 9.
9 others.
And do any of them participate in any of these businesses?
No.
No, but we do have a lot of entrepreneurs in the family. Our little sister, she lives in Vienna. She just started a cookie delivery company like Chip or Crumble does out here. Another sister's a consultant in the spa world. And then we've had a couple other siblings start businesses. So kind of runs in our blood, I think. It's just, it's been interesting. But Shaun and I kind of fall right in the middle of that big family.
Have you always been pretty close then?
No, not when we were growing up. I mean,
I would say until high school, we were not very close. We were, when you're too close in age, you just fight the whole time.
Yeah. How did you discover your entrepreneurial leanings and decide to go forward together?
Oh, we've been in business since we were like in 3rd grade.
Yeah, I know. So what was the catalyst for all of this?
Hey, freedom. We don't have to rely on mom and dad to go buy, our Nintendo, right? That's what really.
I would say like our parents were really, we lived a normal, like, a good life growing up. Our parents weren't poor, but they weren't rich, but they didn't give any of the kids any money. No, I never saw an allowance. I never knew what allowance was. And they always said, if you want something, you got to earn your own money. And so we learned early on that if we put our heads to something, Shaun and I, remember Shaun, we used to go door to door selling things out of a magazine when we were like 10 years old. Like things that I would think today you would not see a lot of 10-year-olds do, because that's terrifying to go knock on a door and say, do you want to buy something from this magazine? And then I get a commission. And people would be like, that's so cute. Sure, I'll buy something. And, but we just realized, like, I always say money doesn't solve all life's problems, but money sure does solve your money problems. Right? So if you understand that context, earn money to solve those money problems, and then figure out what your other problems in life are and spend time solving those too. And they're not all going to be money related, but money will solve the money ones. But that's about as far as that goes. And then it also gets you freedom. And that is something that has been a value of Shaun and I's forever, which was the thought of being chained to a desk. It's not even a reality. It can't happen. So that's why we've had a couple of jobs in high school, but we've always made money for ourselves since we were little. Down to like the first lemonade stand, and then selling candy at school, and then selling, sunglasses, and literally anything we could sell. If we could buy in bulk and get a discount, we would be selling it to our friends all the time growing up. Like people used to laugh at us, but they would always buy stuff from us.
Well, it's very scrappy in a cute kind of a way when you're little boys, little girls doing that. It is a completely different world for those little people going door to door. You're right. Don't necessarily want to send your kids out to do that. But there are so many great initiatives that start in a pandemic or in a period of challenge. Are there new things, new initiatives that you two are working on or looking at implementing in the business based on the pandemic hitting last year?
Yeah, one of the big ones that we're we're knee deep in right now is we're trying to put together a lending portfolio or a lending fund to create a lending marketplace for our franchisees to borrow from, to open up. So we have a lot of, as you know, challenges with financing because this is not SBA approved.
Right.
So we've been talking to lenders. We have some lenders on board, but we want something a little more robust. And so we've been thinking, well, why don't we actually create our own lending portfolio? We've got some investors that would love to put money into a real estate fund like this. And so we're trying to build, that's our next big initiative, is creating a loan program that allows franchisees to qualify so that, that's like, we're waiting for the problem to get solved. It's not being solved. And I'm like, we're just going to create it ourselves then, because I'm tired of waiting.
That's a great way to reinvest in your business. You're diversifying, but you're reinvesting in the long-term success of your business and the growth of your business. You too, we're running out of time. I've got so many more questions I could ask you, and maybe we'll do another episode another time, but I wanted you to be my first franchisor interview because I love your concept. I love the support that you offer. The franchise owners, when they get to 100% occupancy, well, what else are they going to do? They're going to open another one. So it seems like your growth trajectory for 2021 is looking pretty stellar. And it's just a pleasure to be able to send my referrals your way and know that they have an outstanding business opportunity should they decide to engage in the research with you and get approved. Are you doing in-person discovery dates yet, or you think you'll still do hybrid or virtual?
We're still doing virtual right now. And then when it gets to probably when the vaccination's a little more rolled out, we'll go back to in-person. We really miss the in-person, but the virtual pivot's been working pretty good. And as you know, Meg, and for people that are out there listening too, people that we work with, especially your referrals, Shaun and I are personally involved in that process. Shaun gets on the phone with them, does a video call early on. I will do another call with them with Shaun as a founder's call. They meet everyone on our team. And so our main thing is we're very high touch approach to this because we understand that this is a big decision, but people need to get their questions answered and they need to hear what our vision is. And so we love that chance to tell our story. And that's why I also appreciate you doing this today, because this is always fun. Good to see you too.
Thank you. You are two of the people I miss seeing the most, and I don't have it with me today, but I always have my iPad case with the Image Studios logo on it.
Yes.
If you don't mind sending me some more, I'll put them. I need a new iPad. I need a new iPad case. So send me some more. I will keep putting the word out on my end of the street. By the way, earlier there was something about a 7-figure year for stylists. I have a note to the universe about my own 7-figure revenue year. And I will be sending a lot more of those referrals your way because I think this is the wave of the future. I don't think it is. I see that it is as a client and as a business professional. So let's get a lot more good work done here this year. And I will let you know when this episode is ready to launch, but I can send you the recording ahead of time. This has been awesome. And I appreciate seeing both of you this morning. And I know it's early there. So thank you very much for your time.
Of course, Meg, we love you.
I love you.
Hey, and we will send you some Image Studio swag as well as a life-size cardboard cutout of both of us.
Do you really have those?
No, but I'm sure they'll be fine.
I would love to have that. That would be awesome. All right, you two.
Let's do this again soon. This is great.
Thank you so much. Have a great day, and I will be in touch.
See you, Meg.
Okay. All right. Have a good one. See you.
Bye, you two.